I think if you do work that provokes discussion, I think if you can somehow program plays and do them well enough that people are going to be sent off into the evening, you know, having long chats into the night, I think that's a real positive, and that's certainly something I look for when I'm programming plays.
What's the worst that has happened?
But the worst that has happened is that you get some, you know, harsh criticism from, you know, certain people. You fall on your face creatively, or you lose some money. But yeah, don't spend your life savings on it. But you don't have to.
So after the worst has happened, what next?
And then you dust yourself off and you go again. I don't mind alienating people if it's for the right reasons. I think Heroes of the Fourth Turning alienated people. And we had some critics who went, I will not listen to these people. Screw that. Why would I want to see some MAGA bullshit, you know, when our world's getting turned upside down by these fuckwits? Why would I want to see a play that kind of humanizes them? And I was like, that's what? Aren't we in the empathy business? Isn't it interesting to see how your enemies argue?
Hi, I'm Suzy Wrong, and this is the Here We Are podcast, where you can catch me having seriously fun chit-chats with my friends in the theatre business. Today, we're shining the spotlight on Jeremy Waters. We speak to you from unceded lands of the Eora Nation, better known by its colonial name of Sydney. This podcast is brought to you by the Here We Are app, created specifically for people who love theatre, whether you're a practitioner or an avid audience member. Here We Are is a new social media alternative that allows us to share our passions for the theatre in a digital space designed by people who devote their lives to the arts, distinct from the billionaire tech companies who clearly don't care very much for us. Thank you, Jeremy, for joining us.
You're welcome, Suzy. Yeah, cool. Yeah, very spiky, this bad boy. But it looks good. I won't have that problem.
The funding is shorter.
Yeah, that's true.
Are you the hardest worker in Sydney theatre?
Well, you can be out of the gate pretty hard. Some hot takes. Oh yeah, without a doubt. There's absolutely, you know, I'm a slave to the treadmill. I hadn't thought about it. I appreciate the inference. Like the James Brown of Sydney theatre. I don't think so. I actually think I could be doing more some of the time. You know, I look at so many creatives in our industry and they're working back to back. It probably just feels like I'm out there a fair bit, permeating the pores of the industry. But I'm not sure I work harder than a lot of us. It doesn't feel like work either.
I get that impression because you're the artistic director, founder of Outhouse Theatre Company, and there always are so many independent theatre companies try to make things in Sydney.
This is true.
But yours is ever present. There's always something coming up from Outhouse.
Okay.
And it started how many years ago?
20 next year.
20 next year.
Well, yeah, it started in New York City, where we did a few years. Then we had a bit of a hiatus when I moved to another part of America and then came back to Sydney. But we've been going into Sydney now, oh man, I think about 10 years. 11. Yeah, 2014.
Yeah,
the show.
Yeah, that's right.
In Sydney, 4 places.
Was it the Aliens?
No, it was 4 places.
But it's at Garland.
Yeah.
With a car.
With the car. Your memory, look at you. That was about 9,000 shows ago. So friendly, yes. Yes, that wooden car.
Yeah.
That set phenomenon from Tom Batterman. It was like the indie version of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Like made for about $150. Yeah, for wooden steering wheel.
I think because your work is so consistent with Outhouse, you never felt like these guys had taken a break. Every year there's a show, that's 2 shows.
I don't feel that way either.
Yeah. But lots of people take really long breaks.
Yeah, that's true.
Sometimes they don't come back.
That's true. They did a very extended break.
Yeah.
I felt like that sometimes. I feel like let's take an extended.
And I understand why people feel like, this burnout, I can't cope with it, you know, and I gotta, you know, put my eggs in someone's basket. But you've not given up.
No, yeah, I stick around. Yeah, I'm not very good. I can't think of anything else I want to do. I don't think I'd be very good at anything else. So that helps. Just be like a one-trick pony. That's the key, kids. Just be terrible at everything else.
But objectively, you're getting better at the job.
Thanks, Suzy. Oh, that's very nice. I hope so. I don't see how you can't, I suppose. You've got to evolve, and the more you do it, the better you get. I do look back on some of those early productions and sort of go, wow, I had a few interesting choices there. Yeah, well, I'm very proud of that club.
Yeah.
I still have the steering wheel. I've taken memento from most shows.
Like a serial killer.
Yeah, actually, I hadn't thought of it like that. That's right. It's tucked in my basement with lots of other paraphernalia. No, I think it's, I think it's important to try and keep growing and trying to get better and better. And as we've gone on, and it's helped that I've worked with a regular associate, a regular colleague, Craig Baldwin, we have sort of made a conscious effort to, keep the bar as high as we possibly can, despite the financial limitations and all that. It doesn't mean that you can't strive for greatness, if at all possible. It's very debatable. When did we ever reach?
Do the financial limitations become easier to deal with, at least psychologically?
Easier. I'm not sure if they're easier. You get better at budgeting. And we've also been lucky in that we've been able to move forward as a company in terms of the scope of our work. I think partnering up with Seymour Centre has been very helpful. I think that was a bit of a game changer because, we went from playing 50, 60, 80-seat houses or whatever, and now we're in a 150-seat house at the Seymour. So if you do well and you sell well, etc., you can actually your ticket sales basically enable you to have a bigger budget and all that sort of thing. But yeah, look, it is a source of fairly consistent frustration when you're like, if we could just, if we just had a bit more funding, we'd be able to do this or get that actor and do that sort of play. But I don't mind working with what we've got. And I feel pretty grateful that we've, given the hand that we've been dealt, that we've been able to be around for this long and do the plays that I want to do.
Does the money aspect become more and more predictable for you? Like, as in,
Yes, I think so. You as I said, you get better at budgeting. Although it's hard to predict the sort of fluctuations of the market. I think post-COVID, we're all surprised when I feel like everyone flooded back to the theatre, and so we're all going, hey, this is good, this is great. Some of the ticket sales are sort of higher than they were
about
a year. And now, I think now with this, terrible cost of living crisis that are affecting a lot of people, I think people are watching their pennies a little bit at the moment. So, the market's sort of, the audiences have plateaued a little bit. So you've got to be a bit careful. You don't want to get too ambitious and sort of risk everything in your treasury on one show, because if it doesn't sell as well as you were hoping, you might find yourself going, right, back to hiring scout halls and performing in RSLs and doing two-handers.
How well do you know your audience? I'm assuming you've got a strong following, no? You feel that way?
I feel like we've got a certain foothold in the industry, and I think we've carved out our little piece of the sandpit, which I'm, again, very, very thankful for. I haven't thought about whether I know them super well. I do have confidence that if we put on a really good play, if we find a really great text that speaks to a world that's reflected around us, that people will come out. I do think that, yeah.
How do you reach them? In terms of, I guess I'm talking marketing-wise.
Marketing-wise, it depends what theatre you're working in. If you work at the Seymour, they very generously offer help from their marketing department, and then they also have a publicist attached to each show. Social media is really important. To be honest, though, I do think the old tried and tested word of mouth is exceptional.
It's still the top.
It's still for me the thing to really aim for.
And how does that generate?
I think if you do work that provokes discussion, I think if you can somehow program plays and do them well enough that people are going to be sent off into the evening, having long chats into the night, I think that's a real positive, and that's certainly something I look for when I'm programming plays.
Your last play had so many talking points.
EUREKA.
Yeah,
I hope so.
Does that mean that when you program that, when you pick that play from an ocean of options, that you knew that this was something that people cared about, or this was something that people can talk about?
I was hopeful of it, yeah, because it does feel like sort of ripped from the headlines kind of topics covered in that particular play. And I think when people come to an Outhouse show, I do like to think after years and years of doing it, they do expect that they're going to see something really current, something really contemporary. I'm not that interested in doing theatre that feels a bit like a museum piece or a relic or a time capsule. I definitely want to do new contemporary work. And we also do Sydney premieres. We've never done a play in Sydney, at least that's a revival, or that anyone has had a Sydney production. Because I think it's always exciting when you go to the theatre and you discover a voice you've never heard of, and a playwright's work you've never seen before, and you come away going, "Who wrote that? What else have they written?" I think that's super exciting.
Is reading new writing a big part of your job?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I'm always looking for new work. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
How much is that to read?
It's a fair whack. I've whittled it down a little bit. I think as I've gotten older and been doing it for a while, I think I'm more in touch a little bit with my own taste and what plays are going to spark my imagination and are going to sort of worm their way into my heart a little bit. I'm better at recognizing that early. So I will seek out the plays that I have a strong instinct I'm going to resonate with straight away, rather than just going, here's 20 plays, I'm going to trawl through them and hope one of them works. I read a lot of reviews, I read a lot of theatre coverage. So by the time I come to read a play, I'm kind of across that particular play and what it wants to say by the time I get around to, locking my papers on it.
A slightly selfish question. You're saying
I'll give you a slightly selfish answer.
You've read a lot of reviews. What in the reviews do you look for in terms of you kind of looking for your next play?
Stars. No, none at all. I think it's ability to engage with, as I said, current issues that might be, creating conversation in society. I think that's probably the big one.
Yeah.
I want to do plays that really engage with the complexities of living right now. When you're in a theatre and you're watching something, it's just going to resonate more with you if you can see it's engaging with our society and with, potential provocations that might be happening in society. I certainly love plays that aren't polemical, aren't reductive, that live in the crunchy kind of grey areas of discussion. If it's just black and white and we all watch something that we all agree with and we can all pat ourselves on the back and go, we're all good people because the play told me that I'm a good person. I'd much rather put on a play that's going to make someone, have to uncomfortably engage with something, or, that might shift the audience's consciousness in a certain way a little bit more. Like I remember when we did Heroes of the Fourth Turning by Will Arbery, about, conservative Catholics in America. Not exactly, primo progressive sort of theatre content, you'd think. And I always remember this thing you said, in your review, you said, I love watching my enemies argue. And I remember reading that going, yeah, that's not a bad ethos when that comes to kind of programming
When you're so very doing these processes, I'm trying to pick the right one for next year, say. And because you've got such a close working relationship with your director, Craig Baldwin,
Yes.
how much does Craig Baldwin have in terms of the sway of something that he might like?
Yeah, Craig's always suggesting plays to me, and I've found certain plays thanks to Craig. Like, he was the one that turned me on to Annie Baker many, many years ago. He put Circummirror Transformation in front of me and said, I think you should read this. I've just seen this play by this amazing New York playwright, and I read that, and I was just blown away by Annie's work. And then that led to The Aliens, which led to The Flick, which led to John. And Gloria by Brandon Jacob Jenkins. That was another Craig suggestion. But ultimately, I suppose the decision lies with me, and what resonates with me. But we're always in discussion. We're always, we've just, in the last couple of weeks, we've sent each other probably about 5 plays each going, oh, yeah, with that, and particularly if I want him to direct it, which I mostly do, it's got to stick to him. He'll never do something. He's passed on a couple of plays that I've programmed because it just hasn't spoken to him. It's not something that he wanted to do. So I've gone and find someone else.
How did you find a play that you like on a personal level, that resonates with yourself? But because of kind of like really practical things,
sure,
not able to do them, how does that?
Quite often you read something that you go, oh, I like that. Can I create another theatre company that is an offshoot of Outhouse, and maybe we can do it in that space over there?
Because it's stylistic.
Stylistic. It doesn't feel like the right moment. I think you got to take the zeitgeist into consideration a little bit. You sometimes read something going, oh, that's not going to really play right now. You do have to take a number of factors into account when you're programming, I think. I don't think that's super controversial anymore.
It sounds like you have a handle on what your audience would enjoy.
Possibly, yeah. It's not super conscious. Although Eureka Day, I did kind of love the fact that it was a comedy. And I thought, we need a bit of a comedy right now. I don't think I'll program plays that are a massive punch in the face. Like some work like Dennis Kelly or something you watch and go, oh my God, this is just ripping my heart out. No, I can't take it. I'll go and watch that stuff and appreciate the artistry of it. I'm not sure I need to produce those kind of works.
Why do you say that?
Because it's too dark.
Is that because you've got to live in it for a bit?
That's it, yeah. I do like light and shade. And I do love plays that balance tragedy and comedy and everything in between. I do like complexity and shading and, a melange of sort of tones and colours, if you like. But I do think, I just try and have faith that if something hits me about a play, it'll hit someone else. And it'll hit an audience. And if I respond to it and I try and execute it with love and authenticity and I try and honour the extraordinary words that I'm sending on the page, then that will translate into a production that will find an audience somehow.
When I first encountered you were not a producer, but you were an actor.
Okay, yeah.
And a show at New Theatre.
In the dark ages. When I got back from America,
you were just fresh from America.
I was fresh back off the boat, yeah. I had to kind of start again, to be honest, because I was 26 when I went to America. And then I was about 7 years. So, I came back in my early 30s, which is a very different time of life. And I feel like I had to start again. I feel like I had to go, hi, everyone, it's Jeremy with a J. Had to get a new agent, had to do all those things, had to create a sort of career from scratch again. But I remember having a bit of an epiphany when I got back that I could think about, where to do certain things and, think about your career. And I just thought, I'm going to park all that career thought and just try and be a part of plays that I respond to. I thought I could have Judi Dench's career without the celebrity, without the money, without any of the fame or the success, but I could still do plays that, that rocked my world. And then the new theatre were doing like The Pillow Man by Martin McDonough, and they did Jerusalem by Jez Butterworth. And so I just thought, I'm just going to act in plays like that and let maybe some of that other stuff take care of itself. So that was helpful.
And I think with those choices you made, you established yourself and a very solid actor.
I think so.
You won awards.
No.
You didn't nominate it. You didn't win the Jerusalem one.
No. Always the bridesmaid. I've never been the bride.
But you've been nominated.
I've been nominated a few times. Yeah. But Jerusalem was fun because the new had never been nominated for anything. Yeah. I think it got like half a dozen nominations that year. Yeah. So that was fun. Yeah. I didn't even know what the Sydney Theatre Awards were back then because it was all quite new. It's a question we will keep coming back to. Yeah. But that was 2015 or something. It was a long time ago. And someone told me, and I was like, oh, excellent. Where are they? What do I wear?
So you are a solid actor.
Thanks.
But because you've taken on all these responsibilities as a producer, and there were times you would put yourself in the place that you were producing.
Yeah.
And then gradually...
Quite frankly, yeah.
Yeah, in the start, I think. But it's got to work. But gradually it's become that you were producing without kind of just having yourself on stage.
Yeah.
Do you think you're going to get back on stage?
Oh, November.
Oh, you're in the next show?
Absolutely. It didn't last very long. No, it all just comes down to the play, Suzy. And I think as I've gotten older, you are right. I have two kids now as well. Yeah. So acting in the theatre and producing at the same time, has become challenging to say the least. So I've got to balance that up. But as I've gotten older, I've certainly been less aware of parts for myself and more aware of just a play that I respond to. And I haven't been in the last few plays yet. And the plays we're looking at next year, I don't think there's anything in there for me. It's a tough industry where you can't even cast yourself.
When you first started producing plays, how much of it was it for you to perform?
I think it was a pretty strong impetus, to be honest. Yeah, particularly in New York. When we're in New York and looking around, going, how do I make work in this big bustling city? And it started as a one-off. There was a play. Me and an old mate of mine, Nick Stevenson, another Australian actor living over there, responded to, and we went, let's do that play. Mm-hmm. And then one thing led to another. Mm-hmm. And then I started looking for more plays that, had a little part for myself. Mm-hmm. And then when I got back to Sydney, it was a similar thing. But again, as it's morphed and evolved, now it's more focusing on the play rather than... And if there happens to be something in it that I think maybe I'm right for, well, then I'll ask Craig if he'd be so kind as to let me do it, if that's okay.
Is it accurate to say that in the earlier stages of Outhouse, you were hoping that the plays that you were producing with yourself starring in them would lead to more acting opportunities?
I guess so, on the surface, yeah. But I didn't really engage in that on a super deep level. Yeah. I mean, I think when you're younger, you do invite all the people and you try and get the decision makers there. And yeah, I think you are hopeful that that's going to maybe move your career forward a little bit.
Would you encourage that for younger actors?
Definitely, yeah. Why not try and get your work seen? Like, it's so hard making independent theatre. Like, let's not, don't be too precious about, I'm doing it for the art and not for the visibility or anything like that. We work in the theatre. You want your work to be seen. And, you want someone to come along and give you a job and pay you for this darn thing. As I've gotten older, that impulse has receded somewhat, which is, I've found interesting, yeah. I'm way less needy of that stuff than I used to be, I think.
I always find that neediness is kind of a little bit intrinsic to the job of being an actor.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
You want to be liked, you want to be needed, you want to be loved.
Yeah.
All those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not healthy. Yeah.
Not healthy.
But understandable.
But I think a lot of the other people have all this issue needing that affirmation.
Still have it. Use it as
a little bit.
Can't help it. I really admire the actors or anyone in the creative arts who genuinely don't give a shit. who just go, here's my work, take it or leave it.
They exist?
I've met two. I have met a couple, and I really admire them. Just the odd actor that you go, you genuinely give zero.
Do you?
Can I swear? No.
Facts.
So I think, what
do you feel like as you're growing slightly older, slightly older, that as an actor, you know, when we were going to acting school and stuff, like you're always put in a position to be very aware of putting your ego aside and working with the ego, right? Like not so. Yeah. So as you're getting older, you're a bit less needy, as you were saying. Do you feel like as a result of your age, you become a better actor?
Yes. I think you can give yourself permission to not try so hard. Yeah, try and control everything. I'm going to control every aspect of this performance. If it counts, so I hope I've evolved into a more relaxed kind of performer. I'm not sure. That's probably up to you to determine. And the people watching. But I used to just cling to it. I remember a director going, a really good direction she gave me was just, you don't work so hard. Sure. You don't have to work.
How did you interpret that note?
Just relax, dude, and not try and just trust that you're doing enough. You don't have to gild the lily, or you don't have to add 9,000 colors and 5 layers to each line reading.
Does that mean that you, by nature of like even from now, you can see you are full of beings on it?
It's like a natural attitude.
Yeah,
I'm not super chilled. Yeah, true. Yeah.
So when you're acting in a work, when do you know that you're doing enough, too much? You know, do you take a cue from the directors?
Yes. You rely on your director big time, I think. Yeah. And you know, your breath and being present and just go, oh my God, drop the shoulders, where you just relax, but very much relying on your director to just put you back on the rails a little bit and just saying again, hey, you can just be present and you've got this. You don't have to work so hard. What you're doing is serving the story, and you don't have to, with a feather, not a sledgehammer.
Would you think that when you're entering an acting job, it's better to do too much, or is it better to do too little?
I have no idea. I mean, every role is different. Every bit of writing is different, and I suppose I don't think it's consciously doing either. I think it's just trying to be truthful. Just trying to be truthful, and as you say, it's interesting because we all bring parts of ourselves to our work, and I'm not a super down here kind of energy. So I'm fairly high energy as a person, I suppose. So I'm inevitably going to bring a little things to my work, I think. Unless, obviously, you end up getting cast as someone who that wouldn't work for and is a slouch and just can't really go so forth. Then we got to sort of tap into that a little bit. But
you should find a playoff.
I'm really sure. Maybe I should do happy days where you're just sitting there with a Saturday mouth. Yeah. Maybe okay, 2026, here we come. I'm not a big Beckett guy, though. It's just
it's not
indecipherable to me.
It's not this
I appreciate the artistry, but I just go, wow, this is...
One thing that's very pleasurable about role-play writing is it kind of always arrives at a point.
It always
arrives at a point.
Right, okay.
Yeah, there isn't it. You can arrive at a quite a solid conclusion.
I do like a story. Yeah. I do like a good story. I don't have super avant-garde taste. I would never pretend otherwise.
I love that.
I like text and I like good stories and I like...
Because obviously there is some kind of snobbishness around that. So
it can be, I think. Yeah. When you hear people sort of go, if everyone's leaving, that's a good thing. We're doing something right. And why not? What the fuck? I want them to leave. I want them to stay and watch the whole show. I don't want to be too precious about it. Yeah, we can... We work in the arts. We can all have our hairs stuck up our own proverbials. No.
So how do you deal with critics like myself? The team, there's several sitting critics of us because we've got such different tastes.
Yes.
Yeah. And you are talking about trying not to alienate people. That's essentially what you're saying.
I don't mind alienating people if it's for the right reasons. I think Heroes of the Fourth Turning alienated people. And we had some critics who went, I will not listen to these people. Screw that. Why would I want to see some MAGA bullshit, when our world's getting turned upside down by these fuckwits? Why would I want to see a play that kind of humanizes them? And I was like, that's what? Watching it. Aren't we in the empathy business? Isn't it interesting to see how your enemies argue? Isn't that, isn't it more interesting than just watching a bunch of people spout ideologies that we can all agree with? Yeah.
This can't grow up in the artistic film.
No.
So where does this belief come from that you seem so, so sure about the kind of the efficacy of art, like what it can do for people? Right. You seem like you have no questions about that. Huh. There's some certainty.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
I suppose my love for it. I guess I'm not super self-reflexive, so I find it hard.
I'm asking you questions. I'm making you think.
You are. Damn it! You're putting my own lens back on me. I'm not sure. I read a lot when I was a kid. Maybe that has something to do with it. My family, we didn't have a TV till I was 15.
Really?
Yeah. My dad was a vet, very scientifically inclined. My mum loves the arts.
Okay.
Her mum was a lovely piano player and stuff. And we always read a lot. So
did she encourage you to pursue art?
I guess, but to be honest, you're kind of right the first time. I did kind of carve it all out myself, really. No, I didn't have really any mentors or anything like that in the creative line of work. I think my dad always found it a bit baffling because it's not how he grew up at all. That generation of men in his line of work, or just get a solid job and you provide and make your money and la la la. I'm running away to join a circus ostensibly, but I don't know. I think the more I engaged with it, and when I went to uni, I engaged with it a lot. And then I moved to New York in my mid-20s. I engaged with it a hell of a lot. And the more plays I read, the more plays I saw, and the older I got, the more I sort of believed in the cause of art, I suppose, and certainly theatre, and its extraordinary ability to shift consciousness a little bit and expand your heart and your mind and your brain. But I'm not 100% sure where it comes from, to be honest. Yeah, it's hard to put my finger on that.
You mentioned that you didn't have a mentor as a young person.
Not really, no.
Then that links to a question that I prepared earlier about if a young actor, for example, or just someone, in their 20s today wants to start their own independent company. You said it could be a good idea.
Think long and hard, my friend. No.
But is it a case of just starting and then just figuring it out?
I agree with that. Yes. Yeah, I always find it funny when people sort of, hey, let's sit down and, really notice that I really need to pick your brain, and like, there's nothing to pick. It's like, it's not rocket science. I think you find plays that you respond to, find a play, and then just work down a list. You got to get the rights. You got to find your director. You got to find your venue, la, la, la. Yeah, I think it's just finding work that you really respond to. And when you read a play that you think, this has to be seen, this has to be given life, and I got to be the one to give it life. Well, then you pretty much know you should probably do it. And there are varying ways to do it. The independent theatre scene in Sydney is this massive melange of levels, finances. Like, what we call main stage is a very small part of the Sydney theatre community, isn't it? When you think about it, that's what for. Mm-hmm. If everything else is independent theatre, that's a lot of independent theatre of all sorts of permutations. So, yeah, I do think if you want to work in it, you may as well make the decision to be a participant rather than an observer. Like, who wants to just, why sit on the side?
What if the person's tearful?
Well, well, yeah, you're going to have to push through that. I think I understand that. Like, I still get very anxious and nervous about the work that Outhouse does, to be honest. I also think it's a bit of the plays I put on or I produce are a bit of an extension of something in me. They're not completely divorced from who I am. Often what the plays are about is reflecting some kind of dialogue I'm having in my own head or my own sort of inward trajectory. But if they're fearful, what's the worst that could happen?
I was going to ask, what's the worst that has happened?
Well, yeah, but the worst that has happened is that you get some, harsh criticism from, certain people. You fall on your face creatively, or you lose some money. But don't spend your life savings on it. But you don't have to.
So after the worst has happened, what next?
And then you dust yourself off and you go again, or you don't. You can always choose not to produce. In fact, most do. I think there's a lot of first-time, once only producers.
I've always bounced back.
Yeah,
I don't know that you've had many failures.
I don't know. I just think it's a compulsion now. Like, it's just part of what I do. It's just built into my sort of life now. And I really love work. I really love Outhouse, and I really love that I get to, find these plays.
I feel like a lot of people love Outhouse.
Yeah, I don't know about a lot. I mean, we're not a huge industry, are we? We are a bit of a cottage industry in a small little section of the arts in Sydney. But I do think we've found a very responsive audience.
It's become a very distinct sort of entity.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm not great. Again, super self-reflection. So I can't stand outside of it. I'm always inside it. So I always get, a little flutter of gratitude and satisfaction when someone who I don't know just comes up and sort of says, hey, whatever you're doing, just keep doing it, because the plays you guys seem to be doing it, I'm really responding to it. I do like that.
And then you take the note and you keep doing it. You don't let it stop. And what's the next thing?
Next thing is a play called So Young by Douglas Maxwell. We're going back to the old Fitz, which has been a few years. So that'll be interesting. Beautiful stage play about love, middle-aged love.
How many actors?
4.
Yeah. You're playing one of the 4 actors.
One of 4 actors with my partner, Ainsley. Yeah, we're playing husband and wife in it. So, yeah.
Have you played husband and wife?
We've never worked together, so this is going to be potential disaster. No, it'll be great. I'm just going to leave the kids at home for 3 weeks.
Well, how funny if you end up playing the kids in EUREKA aren't the show.
Yeah, they're so dear. Why did you divorce the kids? Depression? No, we did this. We did a 2.5-week show at the Fets, and we never want to see each other ever again. We're running lines over cornflakes, at the breakfast table, which is very helpful. We don't have to be in rehearsal together. So yeah, it's a beautiful play about middle age and grief, and how do you move on from grief and love and all the big life.
When's that happening?
That's in November 7 to 22.
Okay.
At the Fitz.
Why should people buy a ticket for that?
Because it will make you laugh, and it will hopefully hit you right in the feels as well. And it's beautiful writing by a Scottish playwright who's incredibly acclaimed over there, but has never had any work shown in Australia. So this is the Australian premiere of his work, which I'm really excited about.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Suzy, and thank you for doing this, Desmond and Suzy. It's a big contribution to our community.
Thank you.
No worries.